Welcome to Coast View, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such an amazing place to live, work, and play. Listen, we're all still watching carefully as so many organizations, governmental, non-governmental, private citizens, really from all over the country, pour into the Delta region of Mississippi and focus on recovery efforts. And what we're seeing up there is just incredible. It really is. And it reminds me, as we watch all these people coming to help, it's in moments like this when all of our, political divisions and all those things sort of go out the window, and we come together to help people. I wrote something after Hurricane Katrina. I just want to share a portion of it with you now. And, this is related to Hurricane Katrina, but we literally see it playing out in the wake of the tornado. And here is the section I want to read. Let's see. Okay, here it is. And everyone was simply and completely overwhelmed by the scale and scope of the disaster. That's certainly true with this tornado initially, just trying to get your head around it. But the volunteer cavalry came. It came and still does today in the form of people from all over the country who wanted to make a difference. Each one of them was a separate light of help and hope. I call them the 1,000 points of light. Church groups, nonprofit groups, entire communities, entire states, and individuals came into the hurricane-stricken area and are pouring into the tornado-stricken areas as we speak. This has been an amazingly positive aspect of the terrible disaster. What we have seen and learned about the selfless spirits of others and their dogged desire to lend a helping hand is inspiring. People who lost everything turned help away while others, people who lost everything turned the help of others away while giving volunteers direction to others who they believed had bigger needs. The human spirit is so resilient. In my work in the community since the storm, I've observed in people with much greater damage and much greater needs than I ever dreamed of having, who are setting a selfless, serving, sleepless, and inspiring pace. I'm inspired by these people, and they come in every walk of life. Katrina was an equal opportunity destroyer, and so is this tornado. The disaster cut across socioeconomic boundaries. You can say Katrina wiped away the confusing, divisive, and defining characteristics of those boundaries and left us with the essence of the human spirit, an unbelievably inspiring lesson about who we are and what we are to each other. And the way that I wrote the actual lesson that came out of this was this: serve others selflessly and tirelessly. When the going gets tough, the world gets small. We need each other. We are human, period. Find a way to serve others. That's something I wrote after Hurricane Katrina. But as you hear people, leaders and nonprofit groups, religious groups, others that are going into the tornado-stricken areas, you're hearing everyone say the same thing, that people are coming out of the woodwork to help people. So you have sort of these immediate needs that are taking place, so many immediate needs. And then you have these long-term needs that are going to be having to take place. And there's going to be a role for FEMA and MEMA and all these organizations in these disaster areas to help people sort of get back on their feet. And it's an amazing thing to watch. Now, look, I have a terrific visit now that I'm going to move toward with the Biloxi Fire Assistant Chief, Jason Earl Davis, who had been with the department for a few years, actually, before Hurricane Katrina hit. So he can relate to what I just read, I can assure you. And now the Biloxi Fire Department is in coordination with fire departments in the tornado-stricken area about how they can help. They're actually headed up there Monday, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So anyway, good morning to you, Chief. How you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Doing great. How are you?
It's good to see you. Now, look, for people who can't see you on Facebook and YouTube, I'll describe Jason Earl Davis to you. He's a young-looking dude, and he said to me before we started the show that he hopes that's always the case. But he's a nice guy. We actually had a great opportunity to visit before we started the show. But let's start with this, Jason. You heard what I read before the show started. You could relate to that, couldn't you?
most definitely brought back memories. It's almost so real, like reliving it again, looking at the video footage of Rolling Fort in Silver City. It just really was, taking me back to Katrina. And it was a really good read, just listening there, because it was spot on, because we did have just help coming from everywhere to be a part of it, and it was emotionally draining, but also it was just refreshing to have such people come out and pour from all over the place, which was really good.
Well, I said this a lot after Katrina, that it wasn't, and I wrote it in this particular piece, that it was an equal opportunity destroyer. It redefined what poor was. We think about so many people, people with socioeconomic means prior to Katrina suddenly didn't have enough insurance on their business or their house, and really they needed help. I mean, they needed help. This is going to be the same case up in the areas of really not just in those two communities you mentioned. If you think it's sort of indiscriminate as it moved toward Winona and had this incredible, it would hit a little bit and then it lifted up and it would damage some more, but it was a long track storm. But it was an equal opportunity destroyer, and it helped me, really, to be quite honest with you, helped to understand that in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, there's a role for government. I mean, people think there should be less government in our lives, and there's a lot to some extent I believe that as well. But at the same time, there is, in the wake of a disaster, there is a serious role for government. I mean, otherwise people would not be, cities and counties and individuals and businesses and churches and all these wide-ranging organizations and individuals with needs would not be able to get back on their feet again. I mean, it's just we saw that after Katrina, didn't we?
We did. Government played a very big role in getting us back to where we need to be. Because we dealt with so much infrastructure that had to be redone before people could start rebuilding. It was amazing how all different entities came together to make it work and to rebuild. And we are still recovering and moving some areas here on the coast still from aftermath of Katrina.
Well, listen,
the storms.
Yeah. Well, you and I were chatting before the show started, but over 25,000 people still without power. I mean, that's like half the city of Biloxi having no power.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, just small trails of destruction. We're talking about very significant destruction over a wide swath. And in your case, though, you guys, what you were very interested in understanding is what your brethren in the fire departments in those tornado-stricken areas, what they're going through. What are you learning as you guys communicate with them?
One of the things, and it's pretty awesome to think about because we experienced it, being able to talk to them, because a lot of times I know during Hurricane Katrina, my personal home flooded. But at the same time, I was still working, trying to protect and serve and take care of other people's property. So one of the goals that we have in mind is trying to go and try to give the first responders a refreshing moment to just take some time for themselves, even while they're trying to help others. Because, when that hit, the tornado took place, they haven't stopped. They still been trying to be in the actual saving lives mode to the recovering lives, so talking to them, the aftermath is really crazy. And you hit it really right on spot, because they were saying that it reminded them of Katrina. Some of them that came down here to help Katrina are seeing the same stuff right there in their own personal area. So they're saying the aftermath is pretty rough right now. It's pretty much how you covered it. They're looking for the necessities of life, from power, water, and it goes on to even till you get to bleach, So that's what we're trying to do, go up there and try to help them with the things that we're have become used to.
So Jason, what's interesting, the point you just made is one we better make sure we don't miss this point, that some of the people that you've talked to in departments in the tornado-stricken areas actually helped us after Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
So they had a point of comparison.
Yeah.
And again, it just goes to this point that there's just so much selfless. I mean, people come out of the woodworks to help. And, Mississippi, it's interesting. I remember seeing the satellite view after Hurricane Katrina, a satellite view at night of Mississippi. And listen, the whole state was dark.
Yeah.
So even though the massive destruction happened here in coastal Mississippi, I mean, the whole state was impacted, but still, they came down here to help us, and now they have a moment of need, and we need to help them. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the Biloxi Fire Assistant Chief, Jason Earl Davis, and we'll talk about, what he's learning about fire departments and how they were, how the actual fire departments and their equipment had been impacted. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Coast View. As I said at the beginning of the show, one of the most significant, most compelling Katrina lessons that we learned was this: serve others selflessly and tirelessly. When the going gets tough, the world gets small. We need each other. We are all human, period. Find a way to serve others. One of the things that makes Mississippi such an amazing place, and this is, listen, I hate political division and political conversation. I have a way of polarizing us. I spend a lot of time in the Delta. I've never met a nicer group of people. I don't care where you come from, what color you are. These people are nice, amazing people, and they welcome you. I love the people of the Mississippi Delta. At the end of the day, though, it is amazing what happens in a situation like this when all that other noise is sort of taken out, and when we go to help our fellow citizen. That's so important. And what you've done as Assistant Chief of Biloxi, Jason Earl Davis, is reach out to your brother in that area to see how you can help. And you gave some sense of that at the beginning. But what are you learning about how their fire departments have been impacted?
Something of this magnitude is very it take a toll on not just the immediate fire departments that are in the area or that the actual tornado hit, because in that area it's very rural, so therefore you have a lot of volunteer fire departments that might not be manned all the time. But then you have, like, so for instance, Greenville, Mississippi. It's like 25 miles away from that area. So Chief Brown, Reuben Brown, he's a very good friend of mine. He's the fire chief there. He responded like 30 minutes prior to the tornado actually making landfall. It was, he said it was just so devastating, and they pretty much wiped out, their first responder when it come down to their fire trucks and stuff like that. They normally respond to in the area. So they're really depending on the bigger municipalities that's on the outskirts of the area, such as Greenville, and Greenwood, these other departments. They're coming in and they're assisting. And one of the things within the fire service and, law enforcement, just public safety as a whole, this is when all hands on deck. We're all, like you said before, it's nothing political, it's nothing racial, it's nothing when it comes to a financial status. It's all hands on deck to make sure we can accomplish one goal, and that is getting people back on their feet to where they need to be.
Yeah, I have a place up in the Mississippi Delta, and neighbors up there. One neighbor in particular is a highway patrolman, and he said essentially the same thing, that when in situations like this, he lives between Greenwood and Blackhawk. Uh-huh. And of course, there was some damage in Blackhawk on the way to Winona, but he says it's literally just all hands hit deck, and that's just what you expect to do in situations like that. I have another neighbor up there who is a leader in the volunteer fire departments, and I think help people see this. You think of the city of Biloxi, for people who haven't given much thought to it. Think about the city of Biloxi and how we have staffed fire stations and emergency units ready to go out on a moment's notice, and the 9/11 system that's tightly knitted, and we know what station to send and when to do it, et cetera. In the rural communities, it's not like that. I mean, I would say the goal is to be very much like that, but it's the volunteer side of this. I mean, volunteers could be coming in from all different areas. Obviously, a fire truck's going to be in a certain location. People will know that they have to, they have a job to do to go get that fire truck and go to the next step. But the reality is that the people involved in the fire department might be coming from all over the place in order to impact an area in a positive way. Now, in this case, so many of them, I bet, have been impacted.
That's correct.
So, but it is. I mean, the volunteer fire departments across the state of Mississippi, literally, are critical to the first response capabilities of rural areas, aren't they?
Most definitely. I have to totally agree with you because, I always take my hat off to municipality fire departments, but especially volunteer fire departments. For an individual to go and work their normal career, vocation job all day, in the event there's an emergency, whether it's a house fire or an accident, and still volunteer to go and be a part of mitigating that incident is second to none. And when they have to deal with this devastation because cutting trees across roadways or trying to get to others to help save others, that delay a lot. It would be nice if they was housed in stations like we are. But, when it's rural like that, you have to really sort of take what you can get, and how men and women that will say, hey, I'm next, I'll volunteer to help to take care of my fellow man and servanthood. So that's really big, and I take my hat off to them, and we try to support them as well. That's very important to us.
I know it is. Okay, so you've been in touch. You're going to be gathering supplies, needed supplies, and then heading up there Monday. So talk to me more about how where people can drop stuff off, what's needed. Give me some of the logistics on that.
Well, Chief Nick Geyser, he's our fire chief. He's my number one. And, he made sure that he got with Marifofu, Gillage, and open up each fire station. So if you can drop off any non-perishable items to the fire stations, if you can get to the city website, it sort of give you an idea, anything from bleach, to tissue and so on, just toiletries that people might need. Water is always good. So any fire stations, we have 10 fire stations within the city of Biloxi. We have 5 north of the bay and 5 south of the bay. So you take your pick. We'll be glad for you to drop off anything that will help. We're planning on going up on Monday to share these items that's come from the coast. And anytime the coast can give back to somebody that gave to the coast, during Katrina and our other hurricanes, is an opportunity for you to do just that, and we'll be very appreciative.
So you want them to do that before Monday because you guys are going to be headed up Monday, right?
Yeah, we are, and we're sort of putting out, we're telling the firefighters, that's Thursday would be probably a good cutoff time, Friday at the latest, so we can get everything packed up where we'll be ready to roll out. So we don't want people to be trying to bring stuff in on the weekend when we already have packed, so we're trying to shoot for that.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you guys so much for doing this. In fact, please tell Chief Geyser that I said hello. Nick's been on my show before, and we've had terrific visits. And you kind of smiled when you called him your number one. You must have a great relationship with him.
I do. It's a pleasure to work with him. We sort of work together on everything. So we're really blessed to have each other for sure to lead this department.
I love when leaders in the community say that. I mean, that's really important. And again, for people on the radio, if you could see when Jason said that, he's got a smile on his face. Jason, tell me, what all have you done in the department in the short time we have left? I'm curious about your background.
Oh man, I was blessed to be hired with this fire department in 1998 or September. I waited about 2.5 years to get on the fire department at that time. It took a long time to get on. And I came up through the ranks as a firefighter and made it up to now to this position as assistant chief. So we're now, I've been an investigator with the fire department, a fire inspector, fire captain, where, that's sort of like the supervisor of the actual firehouse, fire station. Been a battalion chief. That's actual over, a district, 5 stations, and made my way up to deputy chief of training for a short stint, and now assistant chief. So with doing that, we, Chief Geyser and I, we sort of hit the ground running back in 2021. And we had to, spec out new fire trucks. We have 3 new fire trucks that'll be arriving next week. Well, this week actually. So we're excited. You'll be seeing them on the road. We have revamped the hiring assessment process, so we can get people hired in instead of 2.5 years like it took me. Now it's about 4 months to 6 months. So we're really trying to do some things for the citizens of Biloxi to make sure that they have the best fire department that can be.
That is awesome. Congratulations on a great career. Hey, I'll mention to you that about a little bit over a year ago, my granddaughter had an illness that unfortunately caused her to stop breathing. I'm a former paramedic, incidentally, so
yeah.
I worked as a paramedic and was in pre-med, actually. Well, it was going to be an emergency room physician. Decided to change my major, and the rest is kind of history as it relates to that. But the learning that I got as a paramedic and the experience I got as a paramedic, I use it all the time. I mean, I've had many, many instances where I've done CPR, et cetera. So when my wife called 911, or 911, we were I was beginning to do mouth-to-mouth on her, and when the two stations arrived and they were loaded to bear, man, they were ready to do whatever they had to do. It was amazing how fast they got there and how many of them appeared. And by the time they got there, she was trying to breathe on her own, and then ultimately started to breathe on her own. And after a 5-day stay in the hospital, she's doing really good. But I was so amazed at how many people showed up at my house to help us that day. And I've told the story many times on this show, but congratulations to you and your team for being so responsive to families in need. And listen, so it's a pleasure. We're out of time, but we're going to get you back because you're a good dude, and we have great chemistry together. I look forward to seeing how your distribution goes up in the Delta, buddy.
Outstanding. Thanks for having me.
It's been my pleasure. This has been Assistant Chief for the City of Biloxi, Jason Earl Davis. We'll see you after this.